Okay, so tonight we have the pleasure of an amazing guest. Welcome back to another empowering episode of Speak, Lead, Connect, the podcast where voices rise, leadership thrives, and impact begins with connection. I'm your host, Lorilet Monero, and today's guest is a phenomenal Latina trailblazer in tech and business. Betty Grullón is president of Progsit LLC and CEO of APC Scientific Consultants, two powerhouse companies delivering software lifecycle and cybersecurity support to major government and private sector clients, including the U.S. Department of Defense. With over 20 years of expertise in IT and a passion for solving complex challenges, Betty has carved out a space where innovation meets purpose. Beyond the boardroom, Betty is a fierce advocate for Latina empowerment, a mentor to aspiring technologists, and now an emerging voice in personal development. She's currently writing her first book and preparing to launch her journey as a transformational coach, helping others reprogram limiting beliefs and rising into their power. Get ready for a conversation about resilience, leadership, legacy, and what it takes to lead in tech while staying grounded in purpose. So let's welcome Betty Grullón to this podcast. Welcome, Betty.
Thank you so much, Norilet. I am so grateful to be here and I cannot wait to embark on this conversation. I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
It is my joy, absolutely, to have you here. For me, since I met you, I thought that not only were you very intelligent, creative, but also such an important role model for many of our Latina women, especially the new generation. We need to see more of people like you out there so that we can continue to build the awareness, but also build almost like an army of women who are willing to take on new roles. So for me, this evening is extra special because not only do you have a passion for personal development and you have a remarkable story to share with our listeners, but also your leadership as a Latina in STEM is something noteworthy. And so, without further ado, I would like to just jump in with my first question. So, Betty, if you would please share and take us back to just understand a little bit about what sparked your interest in technology and what is it like being a Latina pursuing computer science in college. What was that whole moment?
So it's a very interesting story. When I was little, I remember my aunt, she was doing a design. She did interior design class, and I became so excited about it, and that just stuck with me. And over the years, I got the opportunity to come to the United States, and what I was like, I want to be a civil engineer. But
Mm,
then I had a mentor who kind of, like they give you those tests that kind of help you understand who you are and what careers are meant for you. And the one that stuck out was either computer engineer or computer science. And I was
mm,
like, but I don't know what that is. But I love my love for like math and science. I get that it came up. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. And that's when I started understanding the curriculum, what it meant to go through that career. And I decided to take that leap of faith and just go through it. It was kind of difficult because I came from a world that only you had to speak Spanish, and I had to come into a world that I had to speak English and so many technical terms that I did not understand. So I went from being a valedictorian, top of the class person to being a C average student. And for me, that was so challenging. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. I just started taking the tutoring and understanding the material. So it was like a very division between the grades, right? I had the grades where I was getting A on my technical classes, and then in my English writing and in my social regular ones, I was getting lower grades. And then I didn't take that as something that was holding me back. I understood that that's what I have to work with. if I wanted to make my dream come true. So that's how I actually became a computer science major instead of a civil engineer.
Wow. I mean, just in a nutshell, everything you share there, I want to point out as a speech language pathologist, right? And someone who has studied all of these issues with language communication, how to manage learning and all of that, especially in bilingual populations. I'm listening to you, and you are put in a very disadvantaged position, right? Where some might have even questioned your intelligence when you're like failing grades. And this was not a question of having an impairment by any means, but rather that difference, right, in culture and language and how it impacted your performance. And I would imagine at some point, although you seem to have had very good, I'm going to say, self talk where you would continue to progress in the path, but as you can imagine, many students who are from a bilingual, bicultural background would probably feel defeated. Did you at any point feel defeated in that process as you were undergoing that learning and acquiring the language?
Absolutely. I remember my junior year, I was taking this algorithm class, and
Mm,
it was so much English and it was so much theory. And I just was so afraid to lose this class. I became like my imposter syndrome became so real. I literally was thinking about going to drop my major. And I remember crying in the hallway. I was like, I don't know, I can't do this. This is too much. It's so much challenge. And I remember my friend said, Betty, we got this. We are a team. We can do this. And in college is when I really understood the value of teamwork because I didn't know they could help me with, and what they didn't know, I helped them with. And that partnership, that holding hand from each other, when we sat down and we graduated with our bachelor's degrees, Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, we were so proud of ourselves because we did it. And if it wasn't for my friends during that time, that I felt that home because I was able to speak Spanish, and I still kind of like they helped me with the English. um, I graduated in 4 years and a half, and I still don't know how I did it, but I did it, and they helped me, and I helped them, and that sense of community, it was amazing. I also joined the Latin American Engineering Association. It's a chapter of the SHEP, and it was just another way that I was learning about leadership. How can I be a better version of myself? How can I help those that were coming, you know, from other countries, the ones that are here that didn't understand college. And it was such a great experience. College was a magical time for me, absolutely. But it was about my perception, right? I didn't take the things that were holding me back as an obstacle for me to drop out of college. I took it as I have a difficulty. I'm going to cry about it. I'm going to be strong about it. And I need to figure out a solution because I know when there's a will, there's a way.
oh my goodness, this is such a story of resilience because in there you just kind of gave a simple formula where you're basically saying to whoever's listening here that, hey, it doesn't mean you won't come to these moments where all these difficulties are going to come. But hey, if you got to cry, if you got to do whatever, but snap out of it and then come on with a plan of how you're going to move forward. And I think that that's an important message, right? That speaks to how you've been able to attain also your focus and own professional development and growth. And hopefully, any of the new viewers or young women listening can realize that you do give yourself the permission to have that moment of pain and sadness and all that, but to also lean in into a community, to build that community, because you basically are sharing how you kind of build that with alike groups of friends, and you supported each other, so there were people you could lean on to in that moment, right, when you felt like you needed somebody to talk to. Um, and, and I'm just recapping because I think it's really important for people to not lose the essence of why even this matters when we're talking about Latinas, when we're talking about defeating the odds, or people who are from different cultural backgrounds, because this could happen to anyone else, whether you're Latina or not. Now, What was one defining moment in your life, when you realize, what? I have all these skills and I want to start my own tech company.
Oh yes. So that happened because I went to college to do my master's because I hit a road, like the end of the road, like they say, with my bachelor and so many years supporting the DoD, and I started feeling empty. And then
Mm.
I was like, I think it's time for me to evolve, right? And then innovate. And I was like, you know what? I can start a business or I can do my master's. So of course you're going to always take the low hanging fruit. So I took the low hanging fruit. I actually went and did my master's.
That's not that low hanging way, people.
Well, so remember, I love studying, so that was the low hanging fruit.
Because you
I'm getting knowledge, right?
Yeah. Oh, I see. In that sense, see, that's interesting perception, right?
Yes,
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing it this way because you see, some people may not understand how that for you was like the go to. It's like, yeah, I feel very good. My brain is being stimulated. Let me just go right there. This is a no brainer for me because I'm going to perform. So
yes,
that's interesting.
yeah.
Um, so, in that preparation, I would imagine, okay, you went for your degree. And then what kind of sparked you to then say, you know what, I'm going to make my own, um, tech uh, company alone, or just kind of hit that road? What prompted you to do that?
What truly prompted me was because I finished and I spent a couple of years with my master knowledge, and it wasn't enough. Then I started realizing that I wanted it to do more. I wanted it to help other people. I work for a large corporation, and I feel that sometimes, not always, we are treated as a number. And because I'm very personal and I love helping, I wanted to create a business. I wanted to be the voice to fight for my team, to give the team that home feeling that I used to get when I was in college, that protection that every single one of them matter, and fight for their stability, their life balance, right? Which is family and work and fun. I wanted them to be able to have that balance with me. And I did it. I started doing my research. I understood the ins and outs of how I could start a business. It took me about 2 years to get it off the ground because I was full time working as an engineer too. And I didn't have any customers. And that's when I understood, okay, I need to figure out how do people that don't have customers get customer. And that's when I told my boss and I was like, I would like to become your subcontractor. And it was a shock to him because he had me as his successor. He was going to be retiring a couple of years. And then I was like, yeah, but I think I can make a bigger difference as my own business. And he thought about it and he came back and said, you know what, I'm going to support you. And that was the door that I needed it to open to reaffirm that what I was meant to be and what I'm meant to do, it was true. And I became a subcontractor.
I love it. I love it. So this is where that opportunity meets fate, right? When you
Yes,
think about the fact that, one, you were building these relationships not necessarily outside like we would, just like marketing and all that, because many people talk about these processes as they're acquiring, I'm going to say, new clients, clients that weren't in the radar. But for you, this really made a direct connection and a direct sense, to what you were already doing, just on a bigger scale, because now you could hire other people as well as part of your own independent team. So I really love that because it really helped you build this business out, assured that you were going to be in a ground that you knew the waters you were in.
absolutely.
So when you think about it, right? I'm thinking about your company, right? Progsit LLC has been serving both. You've mentioned on your bio, private and government sectors since 2017. Now, when I think back, that's already almost a decade. What challenges did you face when breaking into the world of government contracting? I mean, especially as a minority and a woman owned business, because I would imagine that there have been some challenges. I'm not I'm not going to say any other word, but I would imagine challenges along the way.
Absolutely. So challenges are real, and they become very present when you have to deal with the fact that, like you said, you're a woman, you're Hispanic. When I walk into these rooms, I am the unicorn in the room. I worked every day with military. My businesses started shifting more into the DoD space more. And there was a time after the pandemic that I decided I wanted to get out of my comfort zone, which is, supporting just my old boss and their company. I wanted to go out there. But I understood that there's so much that I needed to learn. So I started joining cohorts to
Hmm.
understand because it is very hard to this day when I go to summits, when I go to networking, um, it is challenging. And when you submit proposals and you don't win, right? You understand that as a small business woman on, there is this possibility that they think that, oh, maybe they don't have the technical background that we expect, or they're not big enough to do the work that we want to do. And, the way that I'm went about this is I understand your perception of me, but I'm going to prove you that I am just like everybody else. And the way that I did that is by building my past performance. The
Hmm.
government is all about what have you done
Hmm.
before that is similar to what I want you to do today. And that's what in the space that I am. I am able to kind of come out of that little hole and little by little I'm coming out to become a prime. I used to be just a subcontractor. Now I have a Navy contract,
Hmm.
just won in December, and I have a contra vehicle with the Army. I have two local state contracts also. That's through
Hmm.
Progsit.
Hmm.
So I worked on relationships. I worked on building my own proposals
Hmm.
using the past performance that I had as a subcontractor.
Hmm.
And that's how I am able to now flip the coin. And now I'm in a position where I now need to continue proving that just like I was a sub and now I am a prime, I can deliver for you.
Hmm. I love it. It's a great strategy, but it's a strategy that keeps you authentic and also keeps you very faithful to the mission of the work you do. I also would bet that it continues to build upon the quality of the work that you will deliver because now you have reference points from very highly demanding spaces and companies that expect only the best. So I think that what you're doing is also a byproduct of the resiliency, the motivation, the dedication. There's a lot of work that you're obviously putting into this. And I hope that whoever gets to catch this podcast also understands that, right? When excellence commands in the workspace. Um, because sometimes people do have these biases and a prejudgment, right? Um, I say this after having experience with many different people that I've worked with, where their perception of someone who, let's say, speaks another language in a country such as the United States of America, where, your accent can be an issue, your color can be an issue, right? Because it becomes such a political kind of environment where people have now chosen to have these conversations in a very unproductive manner. I'm sure you've been through your own share of different issues, but when you are able to position and say, listen, it's about the work that I can do, and here are my foundations of the delivery of work that I've done. It's a proven track record. And that has nothing to do with color. That has nothing to do with gender. That has to do with you being excellent. And I hope that message hits home for whoever is listening, because that's what you are all about. And hopefully, other people, since you also get private clients who are interested in learning more about IT, cybersecurity, and all of the different portfolio of services that you provide, do reach out to you. As I'm saying this, are you on social media right now at all where people can find you?
Yes, I am. That's one of the strategies that I have used. I have developed my LinkedIn portfolio so I can learn about all the business owners, not just in IT or in different areas to establish that connection. So you can find me on LinkedIn at Betty dash Grullón.
Mhm.
Um, it's Betty dash Grullon. I am also on Instagram, but Instagram is a little bit more fun, but you're
Of
welcome
course.
to join me. I share more than just professional events.
Of
It's
course.
about everyday life. And that one is B. Grullon Smith.
Okay.
B. Grullon Smith.
Awesome. I just want to make sure that people who might feel compelled to look you up are able to do that. Now, I know that from reading your bio, you also acquired APC Scientific Consultants, which I thought that was interesting. What inspired that move? And I mean, how do you balance? Okay, because you don't have just one, but now you have two organizations. How do you do this? How do you lead both of these organizations? Um, and like, what prompted you to do that? Like, like share a little bit more about these companies.
So it is a funny story. I always say, oh, I just bought my competition. So we were our prime contractor. They had me and they have them, and they were ready to retire. And the opportunity came, and I extended an offer. They accepted, so I ended up with two companies, and it was literally we signed the contract I think March 9th, and they sent us home like March 19th in 2020. So I was like, oh wow, we almost didn't make it.
Oh, wow, that is so interesting.
Yes. So
Right before the pandemic, because the
yeah,
closures did start that week. You're right.
absolutely. But
Ah,
but these kind of helped me, right? Because they had a different way of running the business. They were more about a consultants. They had like the 1099. Proxit had more of W-2 employees.
right.
So what I did is I kind of transitioned ABC to be run the same as Proxit because once you have parallel companies,
Yes.
yes, you're running two, but it still feels like you're just running one because they have similar um, uh,
Systems?
no, they provide similar services. My apologies. Yeah.
Right, right. But I'm assuming that also in terms of running the back end, they may have similar systems, meaning,
Yes.
the way you would do payroll, the way so there are a lot of things that you would leverage once you have a system in place if you're able to replicate it almost into the next company. So I can see how you were like, nope, this is a no-brainer. Let's do this. So I think that was strategic. Now that I understand what happened there, because I was like, what? That's a lot of work.
You know, a lot of people ask me, how come you didn't merge the companies? And my answer is APC had a contract with the government already. And if I merge them, I wanted a proxy to be the parent company. And if you, when you do that, it can be a little bit controversial when it comes to the government. It takes a while and they can stop payment because of the naming, changing, acquisition. There's a lot of documentation that you need to create. And I
Mhm.
was like, I don't think I want to go through this. Things are running very smooth separately. And I already merged APC into the same processes as praxis, so it doesn't feel as bad.
Yeah.
So it was just having like a company to split it in two, but it's the same thing.
Yes, no, but that's very strategic. That's why I'm like, yeah, this is very strategic. The more I look and understand into the process of how you landed at that, and I think it's really smart because you can build so many things out from that standpoint of having two separate companies, including eventually having someone else run certain aspects of it, and do other kinds of things, which we could talk about at another time. But I can see it strategically from an entrepreneurial standpoint, how it benefits you to keep them the way you have. Um, so let me ask you a little bit more about this idea that you have on your Proxit descriptions. You mentioned something called software lifecycle support. And the reason why I'm kind of bringing it up because as I was looking at your brochure, right? And I'm like, if I am not 100% clear what this means, I'm sure that many listeners might not be familiar with what software lifecycle support um, means and how your company does provide this service. So it would be nice if you could please, can you walk us through what that means and why it matters? Like why is that something you offer?
So software lifecycle support is the very, very fun thing that you can do when you're a developer. Is the whole process of bringing an idea into requirements, and then you spread the idea. Let's say you want to build a website. Let's say you want to build an application. Let's say you want to make updates to a military system. Let's say you want to just create a database, anything that you can imagine that can
Mhm,
be online, that's we provide the software lifecycle support. With the DoD, they like custom support. So the way that it works is you get the idea, you start working on the requirements to make sure that you understand what the customer wants to build. Then you go into the design phase where you start creating the pictures, you start designing the pages, you
mhm,
start understanding the backend and the architecture of the system and what's touching what. Then you go into the software development part, which is when the programmers start building it.
mhm,
After that, then we need to go into the testing, where we either do standalone testing, they call it unit testing, or you can, after that, then you go into the integration testing. Let's say this piece of software is going into a chip or is going into a bigger platform that is already up and running. For the customer. So we're going through testing. Once it's approved, it gets deployed, and then we just get to maintain it. And that's the entire software lifecycle support.
Wow. So I can see it's pretty intensive because it's almost like you got to nurture the whole thing until it's really ready and just sustainable and keep it that way. So
Yes,
I would imagine, yeah, that this is very meticulous work because you're testing, you're getting feedback back and forth. It's interesting, but I can see how that can benefit someone who's interested in having this whatever type of software so that it can run smoothly. Basically, you ensure
yes,
that that happens.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
We can either do updates to existing software, or
Mm-hmm.
we can build them from scratch. I don't know if you heard of, for example, agile development. It's like a okay, so that's some kind of software lifecycle support model that you use.
Mm-hmm.
Before they used to use a lot of waterfall, but now everybody's into the agile.
Yes, I've heard of it
Yes.
myself, even though, I'm not like necessarily using any of it, but I've heard of it. Interesting. Okay. Now, when I think about like, I speak to different people and this whole concept of leadership. As you know, I my doctoral studies are in executive leadership, so I always kind of look into leadership qualities and how a person, no matter what their realm of practice is, like a person could be a leader and they're a stay-at-home mom, right? This concept of leadership is not exclusive to someone with vocational or special kinds of careers or college grads, but I'm thinking about, what are some of those core values, right? And principles that basically guide how you, as Betty and as Proxit and as your companies, how you now lead your teams and you deliver for your clients, those results that you deliver. At the core of all that, there are these values and principles, I'm sure. Um, and they form the backbone of your leadership, if you will. So I'm curious as to, what that may be for you in your mind. Like,
So it is very interesting because I was actually working on an exercise to kind of like spread it out, right? To understand what are my core values for, like you said, Proxit, APC, my other new personal development venture, and they all have a couple of things in common. One is kindness. The other one is ethics, and another one is putting the other person first, whether it is my team, whether it is my customer. Those are the things that Anybody that knows me understand that that's who I am. Friendly, kind, caring. It's such a core value that that's why I think things also align a lot when you are a sharer and a helper, because people see your kindness and then they're more willing to listen. They're more willing to give you their point of view rather than being afraid of you. So to me, being a leader, it's all about understanding how can you be a better person for those that you are surrounding yourself with, and how can you lend an ear.
Yes, I love what you just shared, actually. And I can say, that in all my interactions with you, from the first day I met you at an event that we went to in New Jersey, one of the things that I noticed about you was your willingness to just be a giver and, like with such kindness as if you knew me from like ages. And I think because you were willing to be vulnerable, right? Like inherent in that is something about vulnerability, right? And that vulnerability allows you to be able to do what you just said, which is put the other person before you and kind of create this graceful interaction because you lower the guards and let people in. And I felt that from the minute I met you. And it's something that is very distinctive, I must say, because then people, instead of the effect of people trying to run away from you, people actually want to lean in and get close to you because they realize, oh my goodness, she is just such an incredible person. I can trust her. I can be me. She accepts me for me. And I think that working around that kind of energetic field in terms of what that is emotionally, it is a very empathetic type of environment. Um, and I hope that people understand how you've built all this through so much hard work, but at the same time being humanistic. Because what you're saying here with that is how that human quality is key for you. Because I'm asking you about your core values, and
Yes.
you're like, anybody else would be like, well, to be at the competition, to be whatever, and you're like, no, I want to really understand what you need. Hey,
Yes.
I really want to know you. And I think that's very refreshing. And I hope that people, especially private clients, because I think in IT is so hard to find this quality.
Yes.
It's very hard. I'm telling you because I've spoken to some other people in my life, and now I find that many people in IT tend to be very cold.
Yes. You know that actually it's funny that you say that. So I feel like an unicorn because when I go to meetings and stuff, I come with my bubbly and happy self, and everybody's just sitting there. And I'm like, maybe I'm too much, but then I'm like, you know what? I don't care. This is Betty.
Yes, because you're being authentic, and I think that that's again what pulls people in, you know. So
It's
thank you for
it.
sharing that.
I have actually a quick story. One of my clients, he tells me, Betty, I really enjoy our meetings because every time I go to a meeting that you're in, you're just always so happy. It doesn't matter if our WBS schedule is on fire. You always with this positivity. And I tell them, because that's my job. I need to bring the light and the positivity so we can make it. How we ever not being on time? He's like, no, I was like, see, so there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, because you're
And he
focused on
just
the end.
laughed.
I love it. I love it. So this is important, energetically speaking. So for those who are listening. Now, I know that, as we mentioned before, this aspect of you being a Latina woman that is underrepresented in the field, because
Mhm.
that's not only where there might have been those challenges, but then we also have to look at raw numbers. The truth of the matter is, this is not something made up. Latinas, particularly women, I don't know the numbers for men, but I imagine just as a subgroup of people are underrepresented in what you do as a field. Now, when you think back and you consider, hey, yes, we're underrepresented, but guess what? Betty is a representation. So, what does that mean for you, right? Like when you think representation, like what does that mean to you? And how do you see your role, right, as a mentor and model for others? Because the issue is because you're the representation, there might be a lot of heaviness that comes with that, right? It's a huge responsibility at the same time. So how
Yes.
do you kind of what does that mean for you?
So I have always heard that with power that comes a lot of responsibility. And that's why my core values have to represent who I am as a person and what people see. To be in IT, it's definitely something that it makes me feel isolated compared to other Latinas. But when I walk into a room and I understand there's not going to be that many of me there, I kind of try to show that we can do it and that look at me, I'm a business owner and I have two IT companies and I provide great support. And in a way that makes me feel like a special niche, but it's a scary niche.
Yeah.
And I have come to get used to it to the point that I do feel the imposter syndrome, but I don't let that stop me anymore. I just continue going to these networking events, to this summit, and I go with my head high and I give people my business card and I talk to them and I'm friendly. And I know people might feel, oh, but she's so young and she has a company. Like, I wonder if she's going to be able to deliver. Guess what? Look at my past performance. Look at everything that I have done. Give me the opportunity, and you see that you're going to have a fun, very professional, top of the line team. Because
Mhm.
something that I'm lucky with, and I think I have very good interview skills. My engineers are amazing in the way that they don't always just know one thing. I can rotate to different kind of projects, and sometimes, a lot of engineers, they just want to work on one project, one thing. I am lucky that I have a group of team of people that they don't mind being rotated and just getting their hands, busy with whatever it is that we need to do. And that's what I mean, teamwork. When you can tell when somebody's willing to be a teamwork person and be able to support whenever it's needed, regardless of what it is.
Yes, I see. That's key to the success, right? And to
Yes.
being able to deliver on these different projects. And I think this is important, an important message for people who are listening, right? How valuable it is that when you have a company, one, you stay true to your core values because it's what you said, right? Being
Mhm.
true to the authentic self and what you're going to give through that understanding of your core beliefs. And at the same time, building a team of people that you trust, that you know you can give them a specific assignment or a job, and that that job will be done to satisfaction because you've already filtered through your interview process the qualities inherent in that type of person. And I think this is important for even other CEOs or other people who may be wondering, well, how can I take some leadership in my hiring process? Because you see, it's all these different areas that sometimes aren't necessarily quite visible to the naked eye, that are the back end deals of how you have outcomes that make for a difference, right? That culture that you have created within your group. um it's a culture built on that empathy, on that love, on that caring, on that let me hear you out, what do you need, putting others before you. And I can see how you would even lead that in interviews. So what do you need to a fellow engineers to get this done? Like, I'm sure that might be questions you come up with
Absolutely.
in meetings. And so I love what you're sharing, and I'm hoping that people can connect the ideas. I usually do this so that people don't get lost in why all these things that you're saying matter.
Hmm.
Because sometimes people would think, oh, it's just a fun interview. No, no, no. We're learning from you as you're speaking. At least I am, and I want to make sure I get to mark that learning so that people find the value in why one they should follow people like you who are educated, who are producing for the world, who are wanting to be of service, are in a mission of providing excellent service, and building up better, and why we all need to start kind of finding each other in our different locations that we are. Now, I'm thinking a little bit about, as a woman in tech, what are some of those barriers, that you think Latinas are facing that, that maybe need some dismantling? Like, what's something that if you could, like, be, I don't know, the biggest boss ever in tech, that you'd be like, you know what, this is one thing I would kind of work on to help. create a better path forward for Latina women. And the reason why I ask Latina women, one, because you're a woman yourself, but also because there's just very few. The numbers are there in government and everywhere about Latina women in tech.
I think that the one thing that I would like for people to start learning and understanding is about the process of letting go of stereotypes.
Mm.
It is very important because you need to, when we start judging the books by its cover, you can pass on amazing gems.
Wow.
And for me, sometimes people come to an interview and they're like, they might not be approachable, they might be nervous, they might not want to talk, or they might talk too much. So there is a process. You need to create a fair process when you interview, and that applies to everybody. And that's what I do. I have a technical test that is going to let me know if this person can touch a system. But then, regardless of that score that they get on that test, they also get the behavioral personal test where I don't interview people on my own. If I'm interviewing people for a project, that team supporting that project, it's coming along in the interview because my perception is not good enough for me to say no to someone. It has to be a group decision. They are the ones who are going to be working with a person on a day to day. I'm the one who's going to be handling any issues that might occur because of this person behavior or this person performance. So as a team, we have a scoring system and we go by the score. And that has worked out for me perfectly. I have such amazing, not only engineers, but also people.
Absolutely love your process because you're making your team buy in into each other.
Mhm.
And that's very unheard of. That's not a common practice. And I must say is very distinctive and one that I think worth looking into in terms of having more conversations around this um, type of practice because it requires everybody to be all in collectively as a force with the end goal of whatever the task is. And I love that because it neutralizes all of these, but I this and I that, and instead makes it how can we work together.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
really is amazing. Now I see why you have amazing people and an amazing team and a great culture. It starts from day one. The message
Yes.
is clear. It's not about you and it's not about me. It's about we. I love it.
Yes. And
Absolutely
that
love
that
it.
actually I learned that from my boss. That's how he recruited and he taught us how to do that. And I noticed that it was so easy for us. And meetings were fun, things were done on time, people understood the customer. Always, like we said, we have our customers are priority, but the way that we interact with the customers are okay, they here and we there. No, we see our customers as part of the team also because you cannot work with them versus you, and you cannot work with people me versus you either.
Mhm,
It's always have to be a we. And I have realized through Laeship, through the prime contractor that I used to work with my boss, and to Progsit, APC, that we, it's the key.
mhm,
You are the this is the way you're gonna succeed in life as a we. There's nothing, it doesn't matter how much I know. It doesn't matter. I don't have 200 hours a week to do it. So you need to give people the opportunity to learn from and give them the so just because, for example, I'm the boss or the owner of the business, it's not what I say that goes. I don't work like that. I sit down at a table and I become one of them, and
mhm,
I want to hear what they have to say
mhm,
because I don't know everything. I there's no way, right? So if I
mhm,
have an AR engineer, I'm not going to be telling him what to do, right? I need to give people the opportunity to think for themselves because they're going to be grateful. And projects are better like that. Absolutely. They're so easy to get done when you talk to the expert and tell them, so what do you think? Oh,
mhm,
I think that's a great idea. Go try and let me know how it goes.
mhm. I love it. I love it because this inherently allows people to take leadership in their domain. And I
Mhm.
really appreciate this whole process that you're describing, because if anybody's listening to our conversation here, they can also say, how can I help develop the agency of the people that I lead? And how can I help them have leadership roles within the organization where they can take a section that they're great at and just run with it and maximize it and bring back outstanding results, because there's trust, but there's also a recognition of their knowledge and skills in that area. So I think that what you're doing is just a phenomenal practice. Like, I'm telling you, this is not common, but it makes a big difference, and I can see why, right? In terms of just execution, um, leadership style, and being this collaborative force that is focused on that excellent end goal. And I can see how you do that. Thank you for sharing that. I hope that some of the people, in terms of considering how they can run their companies, get like a insight from that. Now, I was reading also that you placed in the HETP, um, and Let's Pitch competition, in your domain. So I'm thinking, as an entrepreneur and your vision that you have, I mean, how has that fueled you? Your entrepreneurial fire, and just like, what are your thoughts on your goals because of this recognition? Because it's an important step. What did that mean for you?
That meant a lot for me, because I went through the process of going through that cohort. It kind of helped me understand my business more. It made me see that I have a robust baseline when it comes to managing the business. And then just standing in front of other business owners and telling them what my business is, what are my goals, what are my services, and why they should pick me, and they choosing me. It gives you the validation, right? That you don't get to receive, because when you're a government contractor, they cannot tell you how great you are because it's a bias. It's not something that they can do. And understanding that I am doing the right thing, that my business, it's something important not only to the government but to people that don't even get my services. They don't get to enjoy my services. It was a very boost in confidence, and I was so proud of my company and everything that we as a team has actually been able to give to the customer on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, and that's how I interpret it too, as I just kind of try to understand more a little bit about all that you do, which is just so phenomenal. It's a whole world. Um, Now, I know that, so I'm going to switch a little bit here into some of your personal development and purpose, driven kind of. I'm going to say searches that you've been in. So I know that you're writing a book, and that you're writing a book on personal development, and that you want to coach others, which I think is a phenomenal thing. I think all of us can take our gifts and help others rise with our gifts. And, I was just hoping that you would share a little bit about what inspired that shift, right? Because this is totally different. This is not tech, right? It has nothing to do with tech. I want to make sure, because people sometimes, are like, wait, what are you talking about? But I want to make sure that I bring out that it is related to the creation of your personal development aspects through your book, and that, it's a shift from all of what we've been talking about, in terms of tech, and into transformational work, personally, self and personal development. So can you share a little bit about some of these endeavors you've been in? And
Absolutely. So everything started because of tech. I was encountering a very hard time after the pandemic, a couple of years after the pandemic, and I remember crying and talking to God, and I asked him, how can I bring back my company? to what it was or even better. What do I have to do? I'm willing to work. Just show me the way. And I remember me having what they call a spiritual awakening, where I just understood that I was where I was meant to be. And that kind of put me in a mindset that I didn't want to be depressed. So my background is that I suffered from depression for over 10 years before that. And I was going through therapy, anxiety, and other things. But now I had a son, right? I have a son, and I didn't want to just be in bed crying because things are not going well for me. And
Mhm,
then I said, no more. I'm going to figure this out.
mhm,
And I started doing a lot of research. I started taking training on personal development, reinforcing my beliefs, understanding who I was. And then I started getting curious about my life purpose.
mhm.
And it took me like a year and a half to figure out my life purpose. So it was a journey. And then figuring out which life paths I wanted it to go with. And that's when I started writing the book 2 years ago, where the knowledge that I was acquiring, every time I saw something work, I wanted to write about it. and
Yes.
and and that message was given to me. Like when you get like aha moments
Mhm.
during your personal development and spiritual life, and something tell me you're going to write a book and you're going to be a coach. I'm like, no, I'm not, because I'm in IT. And I
That's so
already, I
funny.
know, yeah. So, you talk to yourself, right?
Yes.
Understanding that the message is coming through. But then the message kept coming through, and I started receiving each chapter of my book has been an aha moment. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this.
You're like, "I have no choice but to be on board
I guess
now."
we're doing this. I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just went with it. I started writing, and that's how Life and Soul has been born. It's in the process of being designed right now. I did my first printing copy, and that's the thing. This idea came from me understanding something that is making me happy, that is giving me purpose, and that is keeping me away from being in bed, from being crying, from being stressed. I'm handling challenges in a better way. And it's all about subconscious programming and understanding who you are and what you truly want.
Yes.
And I am just so happy that now we
Yes.
have, all the lines of work, like the retreat that I
Mhm,
started. That we're gonna have the second one this year,
mhm.
and the workshops. But I am very excited. I mean, it is nerve wracking a bit because it's a
Yeah.
new field, but I decided that I wanted to do both. I
Mhm,
had a choice. I could have just done the personal development and keep it to myself, but my heart and my personality doesn't allow me to do that. So I'm just going to put the effort and the unconditional love that I put on my projects,
mhm.
and I'm just building it in silence.
No,
And
but I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome the fact that you're working on these things, but also I think that bigger than that is who you become, right?
yes,
Because you just shared something very impactful, and I don't want to gloss over it. I want to actually make sure that this is fully clear and front and center, because people get caught up with the accolades, with this, with the intelligence, with the that. But when it comes to matters of our emotion and our mental health and our sense of well being and what drives us, right? You would think, oh, why would she be depressed? Why would she be emotionally upset? And that is really important to kind of like not gloss over it, because a lot of people are like wondering, well, how do people that make money, or how do people that have great careers, or how do people, what makes you think you should be even upset or sad or depressed or whatever? And people may not fully grasp that the goal here is to really understand our purpose, having that sense of purpose and direction from within, where you now feel alive through what you're doing, where now everything acquires an elevated meaning, took a lot of emotional upsetness, but also discovery and search. Because you're talking about, if you have 365 days in a year and you decided to take 2 years through this journey, and you're talking about 700 plus days, almost 800 days, right, of trying to figure this out, people need to realize, wait a minute, that's serious. right? When somebody goes through the point where the breakdown is like, I got to do or die.
Yes.
Um, and I think that I've never heard of anyone that has made it big, big. I'm talking about like the stars that have not had to come to that moment of acknowledging their journey and how they have to become their own hero, right? And understanding what that is, that resiliency of being able to get up. And I hope that whoever's listening understands that you don't have a prize in your hand because it was given to you for free. It's cost you a lot, but you're willing to share not only that which you've known and understood through your own process, but also share from the point of like, hey, if you happen to be suffering, I'll show you what some of the things I did, and it might just unlock you the way it did to me. And this is where possibility lies, right? Like someone sees you and they're like, oh my God, if she can do it, then that creates possibility for me. I can do it too. And that's something that I hope other women or even men, whoever is listening, right? Um, that they can kind of come to terms that that mental wellness, the mindset, being able to talk to yourself in a different way and vision, blending what you already practice with something such as personal development is important to consider. Um, so I want to just say thank you because that's a lot of vulnerability. And I know that at some point we'll be doing another interview where we can kind of go into all these other areas, um, because I think it's important for people to kind of get to understand some of that work that you'll be doing. Um, I think it's key that we have more of these conversations,
Absolutely.
you know? So if someone is feeling as they're listening, maybe feeling like you said, fear, anxiety, or self-doubts, because you mentioned some of these things throughout your experiences, not only in college, not only through your life and all of the different issues. Like what's one mindset shift or strategy that you would share with them?
I think the mindset that we need to have is that we are what we think. And that one is kind of hard to practice, but it is what's truly going to start shifting your mind because every person, it's a world. Your perception, for example, you and me could be going through the same thing, and you're going to describe that totally different than me because your perspective is different than mine. And yours is not wrong, and mine is not wrong. But if you see it in a light of, oh, this is happening because I'm meant to learn something, or I go into oh, this is happening because I just don't have luck in life, right? We need to start thinking about how every challenge we get, every experience that we get is a lesson for us to learn. It's not a punishment. We need to start changing our perspective. And I feel that even though I went through all the depression and everything that I have gone through, the reason why I'm here today is because I decided I wanted to continue learning and seeing things more in a positive light. And like I said before, you need a team, you need others there. And it doesn't have to sometimes be a friend, it could be a therapist, because not all of us have friends or feel comfortable being going out telling our friends stuff. We don't have a partner that we can talk to. It's about another being or another entity being there to support. There are organizations, there are so many things that you can learn from YouTube video. I have watched so many YouTube videos that have taught me so much. I have changed my perspective and my perception about things. So I
Mhm.
think that's the most important thing that you can start doing. And you can follow me and I can give you more advice too. So
Thank you. Thank you for that. But this is important. Now, I know on a personal level, you also collaborate with William Patterson University and, you support student engagement there, which is a very interesting choice, right? I think so. Um, why is giving back to future generations like this level of important to you, right? Like, I can tell this is important because otherwise you probably wouldn't be doing that as busy as you are. I think this holds like a special space in your heart that you do
Yes.
it, you know?
Absolutely. So I went to the City College of New York. So I support CCNY. I go workshops, sponsorships, and now I'm being introduced to William Patterson. So I'm doing similar things. I'm going there to speak, doing some sponsorship. And why do I do that? It's because I was once one of them. And when you come back and you can, one sentence can make a difference in one of those kids that are in college, so they don't drop out and they continue. So that's why I also decided to add mentorship. I just registered to be a mentor. And yes, there's always time for what you want to make time for. And for me, this is like you said, important. So giving back to people who I can give advice to, I can make a difference in their life. It's truly something that it really, really matters to me.
No, I love that. I love that you're sharing that. It's important. I think, that we need to kind of also show how you are building your legacy, in terms of just providing and giving. You're finding a way to fulfill that aspect of giving back such a productive manner. Now, when you think of legacy, right? Like, what do you hope basically to leave as, a legacy, both not only as a tech founder, because you have your companies that you have been developing and creating, but also as a transformational leader in the personal development world. I'm sure there's a this whole concept of like, what is this legacy that I'll be leaving behind? Like, what's that concept that you envision for, your own name and what you do?
So the legacy that I dream about leaving is that when they hear the name Betty, whether my pen name or my real name, I want them to remember someone who was always kind, given, and that the world is a better place when you have kind people who are there to extend your hand. Because, like I said before, kindness and helping others is the main legacy and the most important legacy you can leave, not only to the general public, but to teach your kids. And for me, for my son, this is something that I really, really want him to kind of understand who I am as a person and why people perceive me the way they do.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to ask you one last question. And this question is, here at Speak Lead Connect, we believe in the power of using your voice for impact. So, what's one message or truth that you hope every listener walks away with today?
I think the message is embrace your challenges and learn from them because there's not one human being that is not going to face challenges. It's how you perceive it. There was a saying that says 10% is what happened to you and 90% is how you react to it. And that was one of my therapist's office. She showed it to me and I never forgot it. And I try to kind of understand to be more calm and trying to process. It's not to get upset. It's about understanding why you're upset, releasing that, and then look for your solutions because there is always a solution to everything we have issues with or challenges.
Wow. Wow. Well, what an incredible conversation we've had with Betty Grullón. I mean, from building a powerhouse tech companies to stepping into the world of personal transformation, Betty's story reminds us that leadership isn't just about titles. It's about service, vision, and the courage to grow beyond your comfort zone. So if Betty's journey resonated with you, please make sure to follow her work on Instagram at Betty Nova. Betty dash no underscore, I think it is Nova, and at Progsit, or connect with her on LinkedIn and keep an eye out for her upcoming book. And I'm sure it's going to be a game changer. So I hope you all stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in into a Speak Lead Connect today. If today's episode inspired you, share it with a friend, leave a review. Don't forget to subscribe, and you never miss a chance to amplify your voice in your leadership. Until next time, keep speaking boldly, leading with heart, and connecting with purpose.